Nobody photographed the nights she cried in the parking lot before going inside to smile for her child. Nobody filmed the meals she skipped so her kid could eat. Nobody clapped when she chose hope over quitting, again and again and again. But that story? It changed everything. Warm, golden-toned home footage, school shoes by the door, a packed lunch, small hands. Every parent you have ever admired started somewhere ordinary. A small apartment, a regular job, a version of life that wasn't perfect, but it was theirs. She had dreams once, not just for her child, for herself. A career she believed in, a future she could almost touch. Then life, as it always does, made other plans. Because here's the truth nobody puts on a motivational poster. Most parents never chose struggle. Struggle chose them. A job lost overnight. A partner who left. A diagnosis that rewrote everything. A country they had to flee with nothing but a child on their hip and a promise in their chest. According to the World Bank, 1 in 3 parents globally are raising children while living below the economic stability line. Not in a story, not in a statistic, in real kitchens, with real children asking real questions they aren't ready to answer. This is the story of that parent. Maybe that parent is someone you love. Maybe, if you're honest with yourself, that parent is you. Clock at 2 a.m., a stack of unopened bills, a child sleeping peacefully, unaware. The hardest part wasn't the struggle itself. It was performing normalcy through it. Waking up, making breakfast, braiding hair, signing permission slips, while carrying a weight the child must never feel. That is a specific kind of exhaustion that sleep cannot fix. It lives in the jaw, in the shoulders, in the eyes that smile while the mind quietly screams. The American Psychological Association found that 72% of struggling parents actively hide their stress from their children. Not because they are dishonest, because they are devoted, because the last sacred space they can protect is their child's sense of safety. So they cry in cars, in bathrooms, in those strange, hollow minutes after the child falls asleep and the house goes quiet. And in that silence, the cruelest question arrives. Is this my fault? It isn't. But when you are exhausted and alone and the numbers don't add up, it feels like it is. This is the moment most people never see, the invisible labor, the emotional performance, the parent who shows up every single day not because it's easy, but because a child is watching. And that child deserves a hero, even when the hero is running on empty. She didn't know yet. This was the beginning of her greatest becoming. An empty plate, a worn-out pair of shoes worn another season, a birthday celebrated simply but joyfully. Let's talk about what parents actually give up, because the world rarely does. She skipped meals, not as a metaphor, literally, because the groceries had to stretch, and children eat first. Always. Research on food insecurity shows mothers are the last to eat and first to go without. She stopped going to the doctor, because the copay was the difference between keeping the lights on or not. She gave up the career she'd spent years building, not lazily, not carelessly, but because childcare cost more than her salary, and the math was ruthless. She said goodbye to friendships, slowly. Not dramatically, just fewer calls returned, fewer nights out. Until one day, she realized she'd been standing still, holding everything together, alone. The World Health Organization officially recognized parental burnout as a clinical condition in 2019. Michigan State University found that 66% of parents experience burnout symptoms, but fewer than 10% ever seek help. Why? Because who watches the child while the parent heals? Nobody gives a medal for this. No ceremony, no applause. The parent who did not quit receives silence as their reward. Until today, we celebrate graduates, we celebrate promotions, but no one stands up for the parent who simply, beautifully, refused to stop. Morning light through a window, a child laughing, a parent still tired, but something has shifted in the eyes. The turning point didn't look like a movie scene. There was no dramatic music, no lightning bolt, No stranger who said exactly the right thing at exactly the right moment. It was quieter than that. Maybe it was a Tuesday. Maybe the child said something small and innocent that cracked her open in the best possible way. Maybe she paid one bill, just one, and felt something she hadn't felt in months. Agency. Psychology has a name for what happens next. It's called post-traumatic growth. Between 50 and 70% of people who survive genuine adversity report emerging from it transformed, not just recovered, but expanded. Something in her shifted. She stopped asking, "Why is this happening to me?" She started asking, "What can I build from this?" That single question, 4 words swapped for 4 different words, changed the entire direction of her life. She enrolled in an online course at 38. She woke up an hour earlier to build something from her kitchen table. She asked for help, for the first time in a long time, and discovered the world didn't collapse when she admitted she needed it. Small moves, unglamorous moves, but intentional ones. The turning point was never a lightning bolt. It was a whisper she finally chose to listen to. A child watching their parent study. A child seeing their parent fail, then try again. Here is the part of this story that will stay with you. While she was busy surviving, while she was convinced she was failing her child, she was actually writing her child's most important education. Harvard's Center on the Developing Child has produced decades of research pointing to one profound conclusion. A parent's emotional regulation and resilience is the single greatest predictor of a child's own resilience. More than income, more than neighborhood, more than school quality. The child was watching everything. They watched their parent fall and get back up. They watched their parent sit with discomfort and not run from it. They watched someone love them so completely that sacrifice became invisible, just the texture of daily life. That child is growing up knowing, in their bones, what real strength looks like. Not the strength of ease, the strength of continuation. The strength that doesn't perform, it simply persists. She thought she was failing her child. She was teaching her child everything. This is the letter she would write to herself, 5 years earlier, on the hardest night. Dear you, you will sleep through your alarm tomorrow and feel like a failure before 7 a.m. You are not. You will compare your life to people who started with more, and you will feel behind. You are not behind. You are on a different road, carrying more, moving with a kind of strength they've never had to develop. There will be a night, you'll know the one, when you sit in the car outside the house for 11 minutes because you don't have the energy to walk in and be strong again. Sit there, breathe, then walk in, because you always walk in. That is who you are. Your child will not remember the apartment. They will not remember the tight Christmases. They will not remember the years you felt invisible. They will remember that you always came home. They will remember that you laughed with them, even when the day had been brutal. They will remember that you never, not once, made them feel like a burden. You asked, on more nights than I can count, if any of it was worth it. You already know the answer. The person you are becoming in this fire, that person is extraordinary. Hold on. With love, from the other side of it. Return to the opening kitchen. But now it feels different, warmer, fuller, earned. Nobel Prize-winning economist Dr. James Heckman has spent his career studying one question: what produces long-term human flourishing? His answer, backed by decades of data, is this: one generation's resilience changes outcomes for 2 to 3 generations forward. One parent, one decision to keep going, one choice to grow instead of collapse. It doesn't just change a child's life, it changes the lives of children not yet born. That is the legacy no one photographs, the inheritance no one can see, but every generation that follows will feel. She never thought of herself as someone who changed the world. She was just trying to get through the week. But the world she built, small, quiet, and real, will outlast everything she ever worried about. If you are in the middle of your story right now, if you are the parent in the parking lot, in the 2 a.m. spreadsheet, in the shower trying not to wake anyone with the sound of how tired you truly are, This was made for you. Not to tell you it will be easy. It may not be. But to tell you this: you are not behind. You are not broken. You are not failing. You are in the middle of the most important story you will ever live. And the middle is always the hardest part to read. Keep going. Nobody photographed your hardest days. But your child is growing up knowing exactly what love looks like when it refuses to quit. And that is the most beautiful success story ever told. Dedicated to every parent doing the hard, quiet, unseen work. This was always for you.